one of, if not the best, most entertaining year as far as matches go. Some of the names you guys have already seen on the channel are Livingston Merritts, our Joe Carr, Chris Dunn, Ian Horns. We could go on and on. But there had to be somebody kick it off. We had to start with the 103s. Our guest here today is a 1997 state champion. Sir, if you would, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Dave Kalbfleisch. I was the 1997 103 state champion for St. Xavier. I was runner-up the year before.
And I was going to say, we'll talk about that 1996 year and talk about your state tournament run and all that here just in a brief second. And 1997 year, man, let's go over some of the names like we've already mentioned, but let's go through them all here. Of course, now we're going to have you on the channel at 103. Our buddy, I think his brother called him the dishonorable Dan Carmen at 112. Josh Priest from Sheldon Clark at 119. Our buddy three-timer Chris Dunn from Woodford County at 125. Jeremy Rhodes from Sheldon Clark at 130. We haven't got with Mike Fields yet. Mike Fields, if you watched this from Scott, get up with me. We've talked to Pat Zizlowski from Oldham County. We have the video, of course. We've talked to Pat. It's just getting together. Most outstanding wrestler that year, Joe Carr at 145. Four-timer, Ian Horn, our buddy, three-timer at 152. Jeremy Chapman from Ashland Paul Blazer at 160. Jared Combs, that video's on the channel at 171. David Moore at 189. David went on to be a two-timer. Justin Sainer from Campbell County at 215. And Livingston Merritt and his backflip at heavyweight. Just the names, man, just some of the names. That is an all-star lineup, just of the state champions, not counting the runner-up. So before we talk about your state tournament run and what got you into wrestling, we went through the names. It's kind of fresh on our heads. When you're standing there as a senior, you're looking around, you look down the line and you see Livingston Merritt. You look down the line, you see Joe Carr. You look down the line, you see Ian, returning state champion. To some of these guys, David Moore down the line there at 189. Do you look around and be like, my goodness, this year is stacked?
So from my point of view, I had no long history with wrestling. So that was just my reality. This is what it is. I had nothing to compare it to. I did recognize that, St. X finished second that year. At the time, that was our best finish ever. And, Woodford was the team to beat. They had, I think, 4 guys in the championships. In the finals, they were multiple year, repeat champions. So I was just thinking, I want to win it. It'd be great if the team could win it. But I was just thinking, wow, I think Woodford's going to, carry this by a big margin.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's only a few state champions from 97 that we're missing. And we'd like Mike Fields and Jeremy Chapman, reach out to us. We'd love to have you and get the entire 1997 state finals on the channel. But man, before you made it to the top of the podium, you had to start somewhere. Every great character, if you will, has an origin story. So how do you find wrestling, man? What gets you into it?
So when I was 10 years old, a made-for-TV movie came out called Spooner. I think it was a Disney movie. And
Okay.
It was about a guy who was in prison for forgery, and he forges his way out of prison and becomes a high school teacher and a wrestling coach. So, it was a genre blender of a movie. It was, the criminal with the heart of gold, and it was the sports story. The whole thing's on YouTube. I actually watched it again a few years ago. But that was it. He's coaching wrestling. So whatever I saw of wrestling, I just remember thinking, as a 10-year-old, that looked cool. But, in Louisville in 1989, I didn't know anyone who wrestled. I knew nothing about the sport. I just thought it looked cool. So, in 1993, when I was in high school as a freshman, wrestling, I don't think I'm going to be a football player weighing 90 pounds. I guess I'll go, wrestling's cool. I'll give that a try.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I've never heard of that movie. I'm going to have to check it out, Spooner. Maybe I've seen it and don't know the name of it, catch it or whatever, but I have to definitely check that out. And talking about, being in the 1989, I was Saved by the Bell and AC Slater on television, and was he wrestling on TV or the character, the show showing wrestling then?
Yeah, I think that's actually the year that debuted. I didn't watch that much.
I got you.
No, wrestling to me, I learned the first time I went to a tournament as a competitor was the first time I ever saw an officiated match. I mean, I really knew nothing about it.
Man, I understand, and that I mean, Louisville has always. I'm sure somewhere down the pike there was a town that wasn't the biggest. Louisville wasn't always the biggest city. I don't have it in front of me, but maybe early 1900s, late 1800s, something to that effect. I don't know. History buffs don't throw me to the fire on that, but it had to be sometime. But that goes to say that even being in Louisville back in like the late 80s, how just of a closed community and how small of a publicity that wrestling actually had in the biggest city in the state. And if you would have come in 89 or been 10 years old in 89, Trinity, I know they're your rival, I know that, but still you had Trinity win the team title. You remember seeing anything about that on the news or any newspaper clippings or anything like that?
No, the reason I'll tell you why I know that at the time, my senior year in high school, I had a paper route, so I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning delivering papers, and then going to school, and then going to wrestling practice, and coming home doing homework, going to bed. That was my whole life at the time. But I not long after the '97 tournament, one of the people on my paper route, I grew up near Trinity. My dad actually went to Trinity,
Okay.
but someone had left me an envelope, and it had a clip out or cutout of the coverage of the tournament in the St. Matthew's Village Voice. It's not the Courier Journal, which is the newspaper of
Right.
record, but one of the smaller ones. And it had a cutout of talking about me winning, and it was signed by the parents of Richard Brown, who I know you had an in memoriam.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's how I know.
Wow, that is
Brown.
awesome.
Yeah. I really appreciate that they did that. I gave them a little thank you note, I think the next morning or sometime in the near future when I delivered their newspaper, I put a thank you note in there.
That is awesome, man. Of course, we got to do Richard Brown's memorial video with his mother and his kids and some of the coaches that was with him as a coach and as a wrestler. Man, that is so. I'll be sure to send this to Miss Brown whenever we get it edited and put it on YouTube and stuff. Man, that's cool. I didn't know that, man. There's little stories like that make this channel so special. So let's talk about though your state tournament run. 1995, one of the odd years that the weights. 94 we had the set weights. 96 we had the weights were normal, but 95 we still haven't got a definite answer. We've heard some speculation, but nothing definite on why the weights were the way they were. But you are a sophomore, 100 pounds. You drop a 7-3 decision to Chris McCoy of Tate's Creek. Chris goes on to get state runner-up. He loses to Robbie Bodner from Valley. That video is on the channel of Chris and Robbie wrestling. So, man, it was at Atherton Gym there in Louisville. I kind of, I've been to Atherton to officiate the state duels one year, but I mean, I don't want to diminish what happened in the high school gyms through all that time, but the state tournament needs to be in an arena. It just does. It needs to be in okay, we know this matters. We know that there's something on the line here. So when you go to the state tournament and it's do you, I guess, come back home that after the first night and sleep in your own bed, or you guys have like a team hotel, or how does it go?
No, that was the nice thing about Atherton. I went home and slept in my own bed. And actually, so I have the distinction of being the first person ever to wrestle under the lights. The first match at the Dudgeon, first person ever to lose under those lights. And that was great, but I don't want to diminish Atherton. The fact that everyone was crowded in such a little area, it was standing room only, and that was cool in a different way.
Yeah, that we've got so many videos from Atherton from the 80s and 90s, and you can see just how massive the crowds were. And we've done videos with Mike Bancamper from Campbell County, a couple other coaches, Tony Harris from Hopkinsville, now he's at Christian County, and that was I don't know the exact how it got presented to the KHSAA, but they were the coaches, people on the board of control. They were like, "Hey, listen, we need to move this to a bigger venue. We need to move this somewhere outside of a gym." And I don't think they could have picked a better place than the dungeon at Frankfurt. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But man, still, you're at the state tournament, knowing that you made it to the quarters. You didn't place, but you made it to the quarters. Coming into that next season, the 96 season, what does success look like for you coming back the next year as a junior? Because, of course, everybody says, I want to go undefeated, state champion, all this kind of stuff. But realistically, what was the next step for you?
So I got really close, with the exception of one really bad third period. I nearly won as a junior, but the reason I didn't win the reason I lost the way I lost as a junior is I didn't really believe that I was ready to win, if I'm being honest. I can look at that match, I can tell you exactly when I lost, and I remember the exact thought that went through my head, and it wasn't when I got pinned. So my junior year, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expected, I guess, to be in the finals. I went into the state tournament ranked 4th. I was ranked 3rd most of the year. They bumped someone in ahead of me right at the last rankings. I beat that guy in the quarters, beat the number 1 ranked guy in the semis, and lost to the guy who should have been ranked number 1 in the finals, who had beaten me earlier in the season. So, but before that match, my coach said to me, he said, you realize you haven't lost a match since December. And I didn't. Right? I mean, I guess I never really thought much beyond my next match.
No, and that is something that is so great about hearing the stories from years gone by, wrestlers. I think your video number 358 is everybody's got such a different approach. Some guys we asked that question to is nothing mattered until I got back to the finals and stood on top of the podium. Or like with you, the next match didn't matter. I was worried about this match. What's in front of me? You know what I mean? I don't care what's going on the next round. I'm worried about this match. So it's cool because if we have such a big demographic or this different type of mentalities from guys from different years, different schools, different ways of being taught how to wrestle, different camps, whatever, then there's a very good possibility that same thoughts, mental processes are being had by the wrestlers today. And I think that's great to get. You know what? Maybe that 103 in 1997, he was on to something. Maybe I relate more to what he's saying than somebody from 2005 or 1983. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a great way to go about it with this series, is having so many different just perspectives on things, perceptions, if you will. Now, let's talk about getting. Go ahead.
If I may. The fact I couldn't visualize myself winning was really, if you are a current wrestler and you want to be a state champion, you need to think about it and visualize it happening and believe that you deserve it. That's what I learned my junior year, the hard way.
And you being in the finals, 96, you also had a teammate in the finals with you, Tendai Charasika, a 3-time state champion, 94, 95, 96. And, it's got to be good we're getting ahead of ourselves on the 96 year. But you make it, let's fast forward to the 96 state tournament. Knowing that it's going to be in Frankfurt at the Farnham Dungeon Arena, called the Dungeon, had to be a little bit, of exciting. Oh, wow, we're in a civic center. We're, this is big time here. When you walk in the Parade of Champions and you see the way it's set up, the formats, this is an arena. There's that great clip of in the movie Hoosiers when the team walks in to the big arena there in Indianapolis. They're looking around, they measure. I know this is a wrestling, but there's not really too many wrestling-esque movies that have the same experience as Hoosiers does. They measure from the floor to the foul line, all that kind of stuff, same measurements. But when you walk in, do the butterflies intensify? Or are you like, wow, this is something?
Actually, no, and that's what I say. I never thought much beyond that's one way that not thinking beyond my next match really helped me. I had a teammate a year behind me. He should have at least placed in '98, but he got to that state tournament and didn't wrestle the same way. I never. To me, the next match, it was just another match. But no, for me personally, it wasn't a big deal. I'm just like, okay, this is where I'm going to wrestle. This is when the weigh-in is. I mean, I didn't have time to worry about stuff like that usually because I was, the lightest guy, right? So they say I weigh in and wrestle.
Yeah.
And whatever butterflies I would have had were done at that point,
I got you. And you win that semifinals match. Nobody knows what to expect. This is a whole new game, under the lights. The one mat, the face-off the way it was. When you win, they line everybody up there across the mat, and they bring the lights down. Whatever. Are you still just kind of like, this is just another match? Or, oh my gosh, this is, whoa, what are we doing here? Or how did it go for you?
That one felt different. First of all, I was wrestling a guy who'd pinned me in the first round earlier in December. That's on that Woodford channel.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went back and watched that. I took him down before that, so it wasn't like I felt like it was a hopeless cause. But he was a lot stronger than me. He's one of those guys. There are a couple of guys I wrestle that can't. I'm not a huge guy, but come up to here on me, but weigh the same. And when someone's that much stronger, you can't make any mistakes really.
I get it, man. I do.
But I remember before that match and before my '97 finals match, right off the floor there was a bathroom. I just remember during the rest of the other, I do my go out, shake the hand, get off the mat, and then the guy goes through everyone else. And in that time, however long it took him to go through the other 13 weight classes to announce them and shake hands, I must have gone to the bathroom 10 times. And everyone else was in and out of there too, was waiting for their match. It was, that for me, that was not, that one did feel different.
At 103 pounds, from St. X, 43-6 record in the 11th grade, David Kalbfleisch. And his opponent from Woodford County High School with a 45 record,
In the 96 finals, 103 pounds, of course, that year you're a junior.
Mm-hmm.
You wrestle Chris Valentine from Woodford County. And, of course, Chris, does get the fall on you there.
Mm-hmm.
Woodford County that year won the team title. To hear the Woodford County crowd talk, they believe that either the 96, the 97, or the 06 team is one of their best. Depends on what era you come from, but they really believe that 96 and 97 team are two of their tops. And like I said, they had Joe on that team, Ian, Chris Dunn, Josh Whitaker. We could go on and on with the names of that. Chris Valentine, of course, but may not have been the result that you wanted. But after the match, maybe, I don't know how long it took you to process it, but when either in the off season, during the season, when did you get that mental image? Okay, I can win this thing as a senior. When did it sink into you that okay, I've been there once, I know what it takes, I can do this?
So when I walked off the mat, or sometime before he left the arena in '96, my coach said to me, he said, "What do you think? Next year, 112 state champion?" And I said, 103. And honestly, I feel like, the guy who beat me was going to graduate. I felt like if I could make 103 again, really I should be able to, I would be the favorite. And I was, which is why I said the 96 one was more impactful in my life. no disrespect to anyone I wrestled in '97, but like, you know, that year I they even quoted me in the newspaper, the Courier Journal, Louisville Courier Journal newspaper. You know, my quote was, "I felt like I deserved to win it this year." You know, I definitely put the time in. I feel like, you know, it was mine to lose that year.
And we've said in so many videos, and this echoes so perfectly what you just said. In wrestling, we either win or we learn. And it sounds like 1996 was a learning year. Learned about yourself. You know what I mean? That's what the quicker that newer people into the sport, or even people that's kind of been doing it and not taking it seriously, when you process that, yep, you might have another physical body across the mat that you're wrestling, but you're really wrestling against yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fact. I mean, you are wrestling against yourself, because everybody's going to get tired. When we get tired, we don't function the way we should. And you're wrestling with your mental thoughts going, okay, did I really put in enough work? Am I strong enough? What does this person know that I don't? If you can get over that, your opponent's easy. If you can pin your own thoughts, your opponent ain't got a chance. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's true. And one hack I thought of later in life that I wish I would have thought of earlier, you know, if you think of it as, hey, my goal is to win state or whatever, then your opponents are your enemies. Whereas if you think of it, I'm just going to be the best wrestler I can be, and then whatever happens, happens. Well, your opponents then are people who are going to help you become better. So maybe that'll work for some people. You know?
Yeah, hey, man, listen, like I said, that's one of the beauties of the channel, man, is this knowledge that has been said on, and thoughts like that, and little self-help tidbits, or whatever you want to call it, that's just been said on for so long that should have been shared years ago. Now we're finally getting to share it, and I love being able to bring it to the masses. But let's talk about your 97 bracket. Of course, 103 pounds, you're a senior. Win or lose, no matter what happens, man, this is your last time getting to wrestle wearing that green and gold St. X colors. You start off the state tournament with a 2-minute and 34-second fall over Robbie Harden of Oldham County. Being Oldham County, I would have to imagine you probably wrestled him a few times. Is that fair to say?
No, I wrestled 112 the entire regular season, except once in December to make scratch weight. So I came into the state tournament not really. I'd wrestled my quarterfinal opponent before. I'd wrestled my semifinal opponent the year before. Obviously my finals opponent the year before. But I mean, like, who was who in the bracket, I didn't really know.
Okay, no, that's a good piece of news there. Now you get to the quarters. You're wrestling Kerry Bruce from Hopkinsville, and I believe Kerry Bruce later in life went on. He's currently an attorney, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm right about that.
I think he might be, because I know I'm not on Facebook anymore, but he was Facebook friends with one of my classmates who was an attorney, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
The radio show, Kentucky Sports Radio, the host, Matt Jones, he brings up Kerry and Johnny Bruce all the time about going to law school with them. So, they wrestle. They're from Hopkinsville. The name Kerry like that is kind of spelled a little different. So I'm going to go on a limb and say that's the Kerry Bruce. That's the attorney. But you win. He could have used legal representation because you beat the snot out of him. You win a 15-0 tech fall.
Yeah, fun fact. I wrestled him 3 weeks earlier and only beat him 1-0.
Really?
So that making 103 was rough for me. So if I didn't, the 2 matches I wrestled, at the state tournament in the evening went really well. The 2 in the morning, the first match, my morning second day match was I almost blew it, right? So, but
I was going to say we're going to talk about that here just in a second. So then a fall and a tech fall in your first day. Of course, that's the way it used to be. It used to be if you were in a championship bracket, still you had 2 matches on that Friday. Back before we had to it was districts, regions, then state from 2001 down. You had 2 matches on Friday, and then you had your semis on Saturday morning, and your finals was late on Saturday evening. But you get to the semis. You're wrestling Jason Johnson from Caldwell County. And let's talk about this one because the bracket has you going into the overtime period tied 4-4, and I guess you get a takedown because it's got you winning 2-0. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was 2-2, and then I got a takedown in overtime. So
Okay.
I thought I had, but
well, the bracket has, you can see there, it has 4-4, then
okay.
OT 2-0. So I'm not sure how if they got it wrong or what the deal was, but
It's been 28 years. Let's go with the bracket.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that was so. I beat him 11-0 the year before. I was really upset with myself after that match, but he got a lot better, obviously. And he was the one guy I know for a fact was cutting more weight than me, and we were both feeling that weight cut.
Mm-hmm.
Only he had been doing it all year. He wrestled 103 the whole year. Yeah, I came as close to losing as I could have come that match. When regulation ended, he was in on like a double or something. I was sitting flat on my butt with like this, around like grab the crotch. My hands were starting to go like this.
Yeah.
And then the regulation period ended. So I mean, I nearly blew that one for sure. But that was.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he respected Drew, my finals opponent, but I think that should have been the finals match. He ended up getting beat pretty badly the next round too, and finishing fifth. But
that's exactly right. He drops down and he loses a 12-0 decision to Josh Durham, I believe, of Christian County, and he goes on
or Central Hardin.
Central Hardin. Okay, it's got CH. The older brackets, CH could be Christian County. It could be Central Hardin. Who knows? But Central Hardin, that sounds better. Goes on to get fifth place that year. But you get to the finals, man. Yeah. You're wrestling Drew Carmen from Henry Clay. Now, there's a great story here about this. We went down, of course. Drew's brother, Dan, 112-pound state champion. That video's on the channel. Drew come in from Texas to visit family in Lexington, and we went down to Dan's law office and done the video there, done his 97 or 98 video, I'm sorry. And he wanted to watch this match. He had never seen this match, and like, all right, man, no problem. I already had it cut because I knew we were going to be doing this video, had it cut down and everything. And you guys will see a photo of it. You text me that, hey, I've emailed you some photos for this video. And Drew is like right up on the computer screen or the TV screen watching the match video. And I got a photo of it and I sent it to you. And I even think he sent you like a voice message. I had him record a little voice message and send it to you. So it was just how cool that the universe came together on that. And while he was in town watching it, that's a 1 in a 25 billion, occurrence that you would text me the exact time he's watching this state finals match he'd never seen from 28 years before. Like that was such a cool moment for me, like a full circle moment. But you're wrestling Drew Carmen. Now we're not going to tell you the score. Drew's coming in to the state finals with a record of 41-2. You're coming into the state finals with a record of 33-6. So earlier you said you'd wrestled Drew. Was that earlier this year? Earlier, like in your wrestling career? How'd it go?
I wrestled him first round the state tournament the year before, and that was the only time I'd ever wrestled him.
Okay. Now, of course, his brother Dan's in it. The Henry Clay had 3 wrestlers in the 97 finals. Drew, Dan, and David Moore. And like when you're, lined up there, second time in the finals, knowing what to expect. Okay, I'm a senior. I've been here before. I know what's going to happen. I know they're going to bring the lights down. I know the jock jams are going to start pumping. I know all this stuff's going to happen. When you look over, did you know that Dan and Drew were did you know that beforehand, or did you kind of put 2 and 2 together, or?
No, I knew. I don't know how to know that. But I mean, obviously the names, and they look very similar. But
yeah,
and they were over there warming up with each other. It wasn't hard to figure out.
I got you. Now, just out of curiosity, did you have teammates still like in the placement rounds, or did you pick somebody? Hey man, warm up with me. Or how'd it go?
No, there was one other St. X wrestler in the finals that year, and it was our heavyweight. So I definitely wasn't warming up with him. So.
Oh, that's right, because Livingston Merritt beats him.
Right. And then does the backflip and upstage.
Yep.
I won't spoil what I do after I win, but yeah, and then Livingston did the backflip. I'm like, did he just do a backflip? But
I've been all over the state. I have been to the Mississippi River, to the hills of Pike County, to the northern Kentucky, right on the river, to the Tennessee border at Wayne County, everywhere in between doing this series. Livingston's 97 video was like video number 7 or 8 that we did, because we filmed it the state tournament weekend of 2022 in the hotel room there. His team goes crazy. They've never seen it. Since I put that video out, there's been 35,000 people say they were at the dungeon when that happened. Like, oh yeah, I was there when Livingston done his backflip. I'm like, were you really? I mean, come on, don't tell me a fib now, because you're like the 35,000th person that's told me that. No, I swear I was there. We were in section yada yada yada. So I think that backflip lives in infamy, man. It's such a cool thing there at the last match. Heavyweight doing a backflip, everybody, loses it, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but who did you find to warm up with?
I did basically the shadow boxing equivalent of wrestling. I was just taking shots, at the Invisible Man. But I do want to say, I remember, the dungeon, you had the floor, and then you had the stairs, and then you had the, walkway around the top. I remember I was standing up there talking to some friends of mine who had come to see my match. And that's when he did the flip, and I just stopped. I was in the middle of a sentence, and I was like, I did not expect that from a heavyweight. That stopped me in my tracks.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, Livingston. Whenever we done this video, I knew what was coming, because of course I cut. There was some of the guys that he wrestled with. One of his coaches was there now coaching the team that he's with. But the kids on his wrestling team, the high schoolers, they'd never seen it. They heard about it, but they'd never seen it. And their reaction in that video is genuine. I mean, they lose it. They're like, oh, so it was cool to have that. But the question that we asked guys about, I don't want to say a long time ago, but it's been a day or two, man, since you wrestled. It's not a secret. Now, have you seen your match video in a while? Has it been? Give us a ballpark estimate on when you've watched it last.
I finished college in December 2000, and it was sometime when I was in college, I think. It would have been the last time I saw this, or any of my wrestling tape.
A good 25 plus years, somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, so almost 24 or something, 20-something years.
I got you. Well, we have the 97 video has the face-off, the match, and the medal ceremony. And in the 97 video, like with Dan Carmen's, I included the intro, the pre face-off, like the lights coming down, because I think that adds to it just how cool that it was, how much of a spectacle it was. I've said in every video at the dungeon that the state tournament, the state wrestling tournament at the dungeon was the best KHSAA atmosphere they ever produced. It doesn't get better. Rupp Arena, get out of here. State baseball, get out of here. State football, get out of here. Under the lights at the dungeon was the best atmosphere the KHSAA ever produced.
I will say I spectated it a few years after I graduated high school, seeing my old teammates, and so I experienced it as the fan point of view also. And I saw my former training partner who stepped up to varsity after I graduated, finished third at night, in '98 at 103. So I was in the stands jumping around, leaping with the crowd. So it was fun. It was definitely fun.
Man, I get it. And it's cool to go back. And now, where I officiate, seeing people's videos that have been brought out from they thought was lost forever, their kids getting to watch, their family, their spouse. They're coaching the team now, and they're like, oh, my coach, coach was actually as good as he said he was. And just how cool it is now that we're able to bring this out. But this blue screen, like we said in Drew Carmen's 98 video, this is something that all the kids from the 90s and 80s can understand what it is. This is that VHS blue screen that everybody's familiar with. and it's got a really cool intro. I wanted to include it. So, man, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Here we are, man, at the dungeon. Turn the flame down just a little bit. I love how the lights come down right here. The place is packed. Such a great visual right here, man.
I don't remember if they played that same song in '96, but it seems like it was ubiquitous at the time. Any kind of event like this, you hear that song.
Here you come running or walking out, man, all business. The obligatory photo. And here you are, man. You're in the green singlet. Now, when we're neutral here, man, what are we looking to do? Because right out of the gate, you're aggressive.
So
Take down, out of bounds.
I have a whole story for this. After this match is over, I'll tell you exactly what happens. Is exactly what I envisioned happening, but. My plan going into it, so I'll tell you why later, but I was going to cut him or take him down and cut him the whole time. I actually told my coach I was going to do that.
Well, getting the video ready and stuff, I knew how you took him down right out of the gate, but I didn't know if that was just the way that your style was, or you were just so amped that I'm going after this with everything I've got for. You know
what? That's because he ran straight at me. It was kind of like, you see in UFC or something, if people start running, they'll usually get taken down. If they come, straight ahead, I had nowhere to go but forward or go out of bounds.
Yeah. And the crowd's got that traditional, we are, say next, we are. I think this is the first video that I have the crowd doing it, because I don't think they do it in KHSAA. And look over and you give the coach the optional start sign.
So I'll tell you the full story after the match, but he wasn't. I told him I wanted to do that, but he wasn't on board with it yet. So I had to win him over to my way of thinking here. He told me his response was, "Let's ride him for a while." So here we go.
Now, was Crazy the coach then?
No, he was an assistant.
Okay.
So over in my corner is Sean Gehring and Rob Willman.
Okay. And the Henry Clay crowd starts clapping back. Let's go, Carmen.
Yeah, I was just listening to that.
All right, so now you get the optional start that you wanted. All right, so it's 2-1. Right out of the gate, man, again, get a pretty good ankle pick, going straight to like a chancellor. Haven't got your takedown yet. I believe we're still neutral. You got Joe Neely, Sambo Joe, as the official. Nice job right there.
That was my move. I hit that on everybody.
You're fighting through it, man. You're fighting through it.
Yeah.
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. There it is. You get your takedown. The first period comes to an end. You defer. That was another. You don't even think about that. That was something that was just ingrained into you. Defer.
Yeah. Yeah, they told us to the front.
You're going back for the optional start again. But you don't let him up. Is that just to see what he was going to do, or?
Yeah, just keeping him guessing. I used to do a lot of stuff. I'd line up on different sides. I'd line up instead of the overhand C grip. You know, I'd line up like this. Just
Smart.
So you're not gonna be able to see this, I don't think, on the video, but he reacts to it like what, and or maybe you can't see it. I got a big smile on my face. I was trying not to gloat, but like, yeah, that was just my involuntary reaction to that.
So you're going optional start again. This time you laid him up clean. And of course, the 1997 video quality, in case you don't know what that was, kids, that's called a glitch. You had to hit the tracking button on your VCR if it done that. He's being aggressive, man. He's got some head taps, trying to have some head hands. But could you feel him like the Incredible Hulk, kind of like hulking up or getting angry, or?
I would say angry, but he definitely was really, he was really aggressive. He obviously was. He came at me the whole match. If he had any fear, it wasn't obvious to me, and that's. When I watched your interview with him, I was really surprised when he was saying that he just wanted not to get pinned. It was like I got none of that. He really seemed like he wanted it and was going after it at that time.
I was going to bring that up in his video after before we watch his finals. He said that he just wanted to not get pinned, and I was going to see how you thought about that because he wrestles good. He's like you said, he's aggressive pretty much the whole match.
Yeah, he really was, and that's the biggest compliment I would pay him. He just, even when he's down by quite a few points, he's still coming at me. He's taking the match to me. So, that's a great thing.
Now you're riding him here, and there's some coaches that teach we don't go for a pin until we feel the other person is broke, but we try to go for a pin as quick as we can. Did you feel him at all okay, now it's time to try half, now it's time to try cradle, or was it just let's see how long we can ride him and get up?
I think it's if it's getting near the end of the period, I'm not going to cut him. I think that's all it was.
Go with the heads. There you go. If I'm coaching it, guys, I'm sorry. It's just, you see it and you're like, let go of the head. What are you doing?
I think the other thing is this is my last officiated wrestling match. I wanted to play to my strengths. I wasn't that good at pinning strong opponents. So, I'm not. In fact, when I look at this now, I can see all the mistakes I'm making. Why I wasn't good at pinning strong opponents. But, I just wanted to play to my strengths, which was takedowns.
I believe in his corner and in Drew's corner, he's got Garrett Headley and Powell, Coach Powell. Got some pretty good coaches on both sides of the mat here.
So if you hear a scream, that loud scream there, I think that was actually my cousin. He was 9 years old at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The video that I had, it was taken from the St. X crowd, and you can clearly hear it. Her dad, my uncle, right, was recording it, so you hear her scream when he almost takes me down, right?
I understand, believe me.
So I think he's getting frustrated now. If I remember right, he's about to take a sort of sloppy shot. Yeah. So at this point, I think that's all the scoring in the match. I remember at some point I looked up and I saw the clock dip under 30 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I'm not cutting him anymore, right? Why take a chance? I'm not going to let him try to hit throw on me or something. I'm just going to ride him out the rest of the match. I think it's right about here.
Yep, I believe right there you're looking at the clock.
Yeah. I've never seen it.
I was gonna say, like the way the dungeon set up, the clocks were there on the the basketball style clocks were there on the wall. There it is. Man, you win. Final score 12-4. And here comes some gymnastics. And there you are, man, on top of the podium. Getting your medal and your bracket.
So the guy right there, fifth, my semifinal opponent. I know that he moved. He had moved to Kentucky as a freshman, I think, and I know the next year he finished third in Tennessee at 119, and then I don't know how he did as a senior. But if you have the ability to look into that, I'd be curious to know how he did, because he was a good wrestler.
The kid from Caldwell County, the Jason Johnston.
Yep.
I've got some friends in Caldwell County. I'll see if what we can find on him or something to that effect. See if we have any information. So, all these years later, man, watching it back, does it play out the way you remember it?
It does, because as I mentioned, I had a very specific game plan going into it, and fortunately for me, it very much worked out the way I envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like, I'll tell you that story. Why?
Yeah, let's have it, man.
So I mentioned before, I wrestled almost the entire year at 112. So I had 6 losses. 5 of them were in Indiana. 4 of those at 112. One of them, you talk about you either lose or you learn, right? So my coach wanted me to make 103 at the state duels, and I ended up badly missing weight. I ended up weighing in at like 108 or something, and then who do we get first round? Henry Clay.
Oh.
But now instead of wrestling Drew, I'm wrestling his brother Dan. Weighing 108, like shaking, and he just like head and arm picked me up right on my back. That was the match I lost there. But anyways, because I barely wrestled at all 103, at the district tournament, my coach, for my finals match at districts, my coach is like, I want 3 takedowns. It's like, okay. So I walk out, I take the guy down twice, let him up, third time, take him down, pin him. And that whole thing took about a minute. So I happened to see Drew's first round match, and he wrestled that guy that I wrestled then, that I took down 3 times and pinned in a minute. And
Tony Thomas.
Right. And to my surprise, he went into this. He wasn't immediately taking him down, right? Like, he eventually got him down and pinned him. So sometime between the semifinals and the finals, my whole team, we went out to eat. And, I was reflecting on his earlier match that I had seen. And it occurred to me, sometimes I actually went 2-0 once at a tournament my senior year, because I wrestled 2 guys that just had the exact right foil for me. And I thought about his match. I was like, I bet I can dominate this on my feet. So I told my coach that. I said he was skeptical. So after the first takedown, I was like, he's like, nope. But after, I don't know, the third or fourth one, he's like, stand up. Yeah. So Drew is a better wrestler than he appears in that match. He steamrolled his way to the finals, including tech falling my regional finals opponent that I only beat 6-2.
Tony Perry.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, shout out to T-Dog, Tony Perry. Good guy. But yeah, I assumed he got a lot of his points from near fall. So, everything has kind of worked out for me, right? Like, I got the first choice and I deferred. maybe if he'd gotten the first choice, he would have chose top in the third round. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, it just worked out where I had an opportunity to play exactly the game I wanted to play. So,
Hey, man, I get it. And that's what a lot of guys that we've done videos with have said, how much strategy that their coaches, whoever, sat down with them before their finals, said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We know he's a much better neutral. We're going to do our best to take him down. If we can't, if he takes you down, we know that we got good defense. Hopefully we can get to the third period, get the choice, like you said, maybe get a turn, maybe get a reversal, keep it a very low-scoring match, get a one-point escape, a reversal, something just enough to have the edge. And that's something that is missed. Yeah, you can learn 10,000 different holds and techniques and maneuvers, but if you don't have a strategy going in, it's useless. If you don't know how to use that stuff, it's useless. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, that was it, basically, just recognizing that I could exploit that. In fact, afterwards, after the match at some point, I was talking briefly to Tony Perry, and he's like, well, how is it that, he texted me, we had a 6-2 match, right? I was like, well, we're being honest. He said, yeah. I was like, well, yeah, I probably could have done that to you too. I didn't want to take any chances on it being close. It's my last match. I'm a senior. I can't, I don't get another shot. So exactly what I told my coach. I just want to run up the score. I don't feel like I'm going to pin him. I'm not a good, it's interesting. One of the things I did years later, I trained other combat sports, including jiu-jitsu, and it's a lot more common in jiu-jitsu that you're training with people who are significantly heavier, and they don't even have to get off their back if they're down. They just have to get to their back. It's like you really got to be there's little room for error. Like you got to always be pressing their hips down to stop them from doing that. And when I watch my wrestling tape there now, I can see all that. The drill we did was at St. X back then. We did a lot of stay behind the arms, stay behind the arms.
Yep.
And I was pretty good at doing that, but you don't get pins like that. What I wasn't doing is keeping that downward pressure on the hips. When I look at that now, like, oh, there's a near cradle. There was, a bunch of stuff I could have been doing if I'd been. It doesn't really matter if you're behind the arms. It matters, are you smashing their hips to the mat?
Yep.
So,
heavy hips, man. I've heard coaches say that my whole refereeing career. Heavy hips, heavy on his hips. Got to keep them broke down. Now, on the top of the podium there, man, you was handed a bracket. And, of course, that state championship medal, and you guys will see some photos of the medals and plaques that you have. But I believe I saw off camera you had a pretty nice, shiny gold medal there. Let's see that thing.
I got a couple. This is the gold one here. Let's see.
Yeah.
So I don't want to focus, does it? Let's see.
Yeah, good. And like I said, that's it. And we'll insert the photos. That way everybody can see the good close-ups of it. How
then I got the silver. Got the silver from '96. I've actually, if you look at the yearbook, the gold one here, you can see it around my neck, and I wore it the rest of the evening, I think. I've actually never taken the silver one out of the case.
Really?
Yep, never. Like second.
Hey, man, I get it. And, kudos, like we said off camera, but I'll say it so everybody can hear it. Kudos to you for holding on to that stuff, holding on to your medals, holding on to stuff like that, because it matters. You invested so much in that it matters. All these years later, it still matters. And you had I believe it was the Coaches Award from St. Xavier. Did I see that plaque as well?
Yeah, that was from '96. So there you go. You can see Coaches Award. So I got this after my junior year. So that was the year I finished better than expected. And I set a record that year for most wins in a season for St. X. That was 43. Although it must be said, this comes with the caveat that St. X won the football state tournament that year, which meant that my teammate Tendai Chirasika was gone pretty much all of December.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, Tendai on that football team, that was a heck of a football team. And also, you guys will see photos and other videos. Carter Gilliam's video. Hunter French, a couple other St. Xavier guys that we've got on the channel. Is St. Xavier has the wall there with all the state champions, and the state champions also get their own individual sign to keep. And of course, like I said, you've got yours. You'll see photos of it. You're looking at them as we speak. That's a cool memento to honor the guys that's come before and been on top of the podium. It's cool that the Tigers do that and everybody can see it. And now I love being able to say this, instead of just a name on a banner, man, they can actually pull up that, oh wow, let's watch Dave Clough. I see his name up there. Let's watch his 97 video. Let's watch Isaac Knable's 2001, Tentai Cherisika's 94, Chris Zenner's 1989, Carter Gilliam's 2024 heavyweight finals. All these guys that we've done videos with, that now it's not just a name, man. We can actually put mat time to it. And let's talk about St. Xavier's history real quick. As of this filming, this is the January 13th, 2025. St. Xavier has 3 team state championships. Man, you just missed out being a team champion as well. 1998, one of the very few teams that has won the team state championship but didn't have an individual state champion that year. One of the very few teams that done that.
Did not have anyone in the finals.
Okay, that's incredible. Just how top to bottom, how good that team was. 2001, team state champions. Of course, Isaac was on that team. Zach Steinbach was on that team. So very, very good team. And then 2013, team state champions as well. 28 individual state champions. That's right now currently tied with 8th place or tied for 8th place, I should say, with Simon Kenton. And you're going to make, I believe, video number 16 of the 28 state champions are on the channel. So pretty good number there. Will Rabatine from 2000, John Lampy 2010 and 2011, Justin Lampy 2013 and 2014, and Dominic Lampy 2014. You guys need to get up with me. I've been trying to get up with you to do your review videos. That would give us what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would give us 6 more for the review series. I'd really like to get you all on here and give as many, because there's some from the 70s, and I think Krasick from 1990. I believe it's 1990. We don't have that video for, but still, those guys, the Lampies and Will Rabatine, holler at me. Let's get it lined up, man. Love to do it on Zoom. Love to have you all. So, man, we've covered a lot of ground here, talked a lot of wrestling. Anything else you'd like to add, say, take away? Anything else that maybe we didn't cover?
Yeah, I want to thank some people too. My coaches, obviously, Sean Gehring, Rob Willman, Jim Kresley, who was a longtime St. X coach. He was an assistant when I was there. And also some guys who were only coached my first 2 years. Jim Nolte, Chester Massey, who you might want to talk to eventually, Alex. He was a 1970 and 71 champion for Flagey.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Chris Gazani, Ben Cressy, and then obviously all my training partners. Those guys they're the ones who stepped up once I graduated, and they were on that 1998 state championship team. So those are, my training partner, Luke Hatmer, Scott Wallach, Adam Davis, Nick Zerlich, Brad Deering, David Ratterman. Anyone else I'm forgetting? And 2 other people I'd like to thank also. The big standout wrestler when I was at St. X was Tendai Cherisika, but his style was not a style that I felt like I could emulate. The guys I looked up to, like this is what I want to be. This is a good path for me. Were Eric Nolte and a guy named Kenny Von Rowan. They were both 1994 runners-up. So, they're the ones when I would watch them wrestle, and that inspired me. So, you mentioned you never know who you might inspire. So they were my inspiration. So thanks to those guys. And anyone else I forgot, sorry, but you know who you are. One plug real quick. So actually, nothing but respect for the Carmens. I was in the crowd the next year in '98 because I thought there was a good chance Saints was going to win it. So I came back and saw my teammates. Yeah, I drove 4.5 hours to be there and see my teammates win it. So I did see Drew's finals, when he won. So he commented that, made him feel bad to see Anthony Smith lose.
Yeah.
It's nice. I actually appreciate seeing him win. I actually wished him good luck before the match. So, it's you do feel the camaraderie, right? Like, I'd probably have more to say if I ran into him than most of the people with whom I actually graduated high school, right? Just because there's that commonality. So I enjoyed seeing him win. So thank you, Drew.
Yeah, and that is something that doing this, being an official, doing the state tournament, all that kind of stuff, I mean, you can tell the people who've wrestled each other. We've got officials on our state tournament rotation roster that wrestled each other. We've got officials that have wrestled coaches. We've got, dads now have their kids in wrestling who they may have wrestled, somebody that's on the officiating crew. You can always tell. You can always see them coming. They're getting in a stance, or they'll come up behind somebody and grab them, like trying to lift them. Or, you remember that time in 2004 when I picked? Yeah, you're lucky, And it's like, you can tell, that somehow crazily we bonded with the people that we wrestled with, win or lose. If they weren't, just like a punk or cheap shotted or something, if y'all kept in contact or had mutual respect, got up, shook hands, whatever, at the end of it, that's where it ended. You can tell when people wrestled each other. You can always tell. So that's cool, man. You got to see Drew come back and win that in '98.
I got a good, at least amusing to me, story about if you don't either win or you learn. I'll send you this video if I can get it from my mother. It'd be on VHS. But you never know how a loss is going to actually help you. So my semifinal match, my junior year, the one where I upset to get into the finals, it was an overtime match. I went into overtime. The way I got the takedown, my opponent, Ben Bowen from Sheldon Clark, took a shot on me. I sprawled, and he was completely flat on his stomach, all the way extended, and I could not break his grip. Even in that position, he had a really strong grip. So I ended up, normally that would just go to stalemate, right? But I ended up cross-facing him and ran a cradle and rocked it back, still with him with this, grip locked on my leg. And they gave me the takedown. That's how I won that match. And to this day, I cannot tell you how that met the 1996 criteria for a takedown. But I knew I'd get the takedown. The reason I knew that would be a takedown is because in the previous season, his teammate, Josh Priest, the future two-time state champion, did that exact same thing to me. Oh. So I never got to try to pay back Josh, but I got to pay it forward to Ben. So
yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's always a lesson.
And I would say that if Josh Priest done that come directly from the brain of Jim Matney when he was at Sheldon Clark. So I would say that was something they practiced, or that was one of Matney's, even at Sheldon Clark and at Johnson Central, was his wrestlers, man. Near side cradle, far side cradle, whatever, they were cradling machines. I mean, they just were. So I would say that you learned something and was able to, use it when you needed it. You know what I mean? Pull a rabbit out of the hat, or pull a tiger out of the hat, if you will.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd say, on the one hand, you don't want to be the guy talking about how, I scored 4 touchdowns in a single game in 1966 or whatever, right? Married with Children reference for anyone who gets that. But
yeah,
it's interesting how stuff that happens back then really can stick with you for a long time. So I mentioned I practiced jiu-jitsu for a while. I also practiced, I fought a Muay Thai fight when I was 36.
Wow.
So, but the interesting part of it, the thought of that, I thought it's an exhibition bout, right? So you're not really trying to knock each other out. You're wearing gloves, you're wearing shin pads, but you can get blasted in the ribs or the gut with a knee, and that's not padded, right? Yeah. You can really get beat on. And wrestling to me, it's nerve-wracking sometimes, but I never felt like, okay, I'm going to go fight somebody. Getting in a ring, it's like, okay, I'm going to go fight. Even if there's padding, we're going to go fight right now. Yeah. It feels different. But part of the reason I wanted to do this, other than I was training, and why not compete if you're going to train, but you know, I told you that I didn't really feel like I believed, you know, in '96 that I should win. And that, you know, you learn about yourself when you do things like this. It's not always good. One of the things I learned is I'm just a big self-doubter. So, you know, that was still bothering me all the way up, fast forward to 2015. So, you know, I went to an event, and, you know, where people, you know, a fighting event. I'm like, okay, I could do this. I'm going to train to get in the ring and fight. And I wanted to do it for a number of reasons, but one explicitly is because it scared me. Like once again, people can just grab you and just you couldn't knee the head in the rules we were fighting under, but like literally you could just get kneed, you know, you get beat on pretty good, right? So like, okay, this scares me, so I need to do it. I need to go in there and just not be afraid. So, you know, I did this. I went through this whole workup. You know, I was lifting weights twice a week and going to practice 3 days a week and doing a little bit of running at 36 years old, right? And, you know, it went well. I think I would have – exhibition bouts aren't scored. I probably would have lost on points. But I wasn't afraid, and I was in the right spot. And that's what I wanted to get out of it, you know? So, like, 1996 ends one way. I had to carry it out all the way to 2015 before it's like, okay, I've – satisfied myself that I'm not, you know, I went out there and did the thing and I wasn't afraid. I didn't beat myself again. So, you know, stuff like that matters. You learn about yourself doing it. So don't leave anything out there, you know. Make sure you, like Mr. Miyagi said, right, you might lose to the opponent, but don't lose to fear.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end it, man. I really do. We know that a lot of coaches, a lot of the youth teams, middle school teams, they'll set their kids down and they'll watch, you know, a certain match, or watch how this person done this, or watch, you know, this is what you don't do here, or whatever. This will get you beat in the state final. So I think that's a lose to the opponent, but not to fear. I think that's a good way to end it. So, Dave, man, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. I know the St. Xavier crowd is going to enjoy seeing it. I don't know if the Carmen family will get as much enjoyment as the St. Xavier crowd, and I'll be sure to tag Drew and Dan when I post it. So, because I always post them on my Facebook and everything. So, guys, thank you all for watching. It's been a good video. Enjoyed doing this one. We will see you guys and girls on the mats.